Hello everyone, welcome to Super Coaching UPSC by Textbook. This is Venkatesh, your faculty for geography. And as you all know that every Friday, I'm coming up with previous year questions analysis for proper understanding of what kind of questions UPSC asks, for making you to get into the template of UPSC preparation as such. So without much wastage of time, let us discuss the same things. Okay, so let's start with the same kind of discussions we had. So today we'll be starting about previous year questions on climatology. See, I know that the UPSC pattern has been slightly changed in terms of options, but the concepts, the conceptual clarity which you get out of this did not change much, right? Yes, the approach might vary, but the conceptual clarity which you get out of doing this previous year questions is still valid. So with that validity into consideration, let us start the topic. So let us see the first question. So read this question carefully. Right. So if you see this, thickness of the atmosphere is maximum of the equator. Reason, high insolation and strong convecting currents occur over the equator. What is the correct explanation? Is it this statement right, wrong, what not? Right. So when you see the thickness of the atmosphere is maximum over the equator, high insolation, strong convective currents occur over the equator. See the answer? See the question? Is it assertion is right? Is it reasoning is right? And is the reason the right reason for the assertion given above? Think. Right. Yes, PRP. The answer is A. Definitely yes. So here you can clearly say that both A and R are individually true and R is the correct explanation for A. Yes. You can see thickness of the atmosphere is maximum or equator. How much it is? How much it is? How much? It is definitely around 18 kilometers. Yes, around 18 kilometers. 16 to 18 kilometers is the thickness at the equator. Why do you think that the higher insolation is or the atmosphere is more at the equator thickness? This is more about the point which I am trying to talk about, the troposphere. This is more I am trying to talking about the troposphere. So what is the reason for that? Yes, PRP, 18 kilometers, troposphere. We are not talking about the complete atmosphere, but the troposphere here in general. Why do you think that such process is happening? Why do you think such process is happening? Yes, at the poles it is not 13 kilometers, PRP. It is 8 kilometers at the poles and it is only around, on the average is 13 kilometers, which 8 kilometers at the poles and 18 kilometers at the equator. The reason is very simple. The high insolation will lead to more strong convective currents which occur at the equator. Hence, answer is A. For example, let me give you this analogy here. Right. If you see here, equator, whatever the air rises here will expand more and thereby it will be travel to greater heights because of more temperature. So if you see the layers of the first layer, tropopause, will be having like this. And the other layers also will be having slight variation. Usually they are talking about the thickness of the atmosphere means the concentration of air and all such kind of things. It is because of the convective currents itself. So convective currents are high at equator. Right. Then let's go to the next question. Next question. Yes, PRP, shape of the earth is also a reason for that. Apart from that, you do find the convective currents. Then, the next question. Jet aircrafts fly very easily and smoothly in the lower stratosphere. What could be the appropriate explanation? What could be the appropriate explanation for jet aircrafts fly very easily and smoothly in the lower stratosphere? The reasons are, you do find jet aircrafts moving in the lower stratosphere, isn't it? The reasons are both. There are no clouds or water vapor in the lower stratosphere. Yes, because of which there is no turbulence. No turbulence. There are no vertical winds in the lower stratosphere. Yes, there are no vertical winds as such, because of which there is a smoother amount of things. Majority of the weather phenomena occur in the troposphere, and as you cross the troposphere, go above it, it would be a clear one, which would be easier for the longer duration flights to travel. So that is the reason why jet aircrafts do travel and smoothly in the lower stratosphere. Answer is both 1 and 2, right? So as you can see here, if this is the tropopause, this is the tropopause line, right? Above the tropopause, you do find the jet aircrafts, passenger aircrafts, and all these kind of things, which will make the flights to travel go beyond the turbulence of our lower layer of the atmosphere, that is the troposphere, or the beyond the tropopause. Now, if you see both the questions, what is the probability of a qualifier of the prelims getting it right? I would say that both of them, for both the questions, the qualifier, whoever are accept, if you see in the trends of the previous year questions and the nature of the quality of the person who clears the prelims exam, they do get all these questions right. So the probability is right, and the learnings for us is very simple. Understand the concept behind that. That's it. Right. Let's move forward to the next question now. Right. Normally, the temperature decreases with increase in height from the Earth's surface. That's what we know. What do you call that phenomena? The temperature decreasing with increase in height from the Earth's surface is what we call it as normal lapse rate. Right. So, normal lapse rate is because of what reasons is what the question is. That is the question. Try to answer. Take around 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Let me see the comments. PRP, are you there? Yes, Gayatri. Normal lapse rate 6.5 degrees Celsius for every 1 kilometer. Yes, you are right. So that is what the normal lapse rate. The question is why? Is my audio video clear? All of you, audio is clear? Is the audio clear? Yes. Okay. Right. Now, if you see it, the atmosphere can be heated up upwards only from the Earth's surface. We all know that the atmosphere gets heated up only from the terrestrial radiation, not from the incoming solar radiation. So that is the reason why you find yes, this is definitely correct. So you can eliminate about the option B. There is more moisture in the upper atmosphere. Usually majority of the weather phenomena occurs nearer to the surface, where they are nearer to the surface. Even the water vapor concentration, the moisture is nearer to the surface. So even this statement is wrong by nature itself. Forget about the concept. The statement itself is wrong. So if you have eliminated this, this is also gone. Now it's all left with the third statement. The air is less dense in the upper atmosphere. Because the air is less denser, there is no mixture of the temperature concentration is also, this is also fairly right. So the correct answer should be 1 and 3. If you see it, this is the surface. You have the sun. You have the insolation coming from the sun. It is hitting the surface of the earth. It is hitting the surface of the earth. Now from here onwards, you will have something called as the terrestrial radiation. Because of the terrestrial radiation, layer by layer gets heated up from the top. So the sources of heating of the atmosphere, what are the process you have? The layer by layer heating is what we call it as, once again, the same concept, convection. So atmosphere gets heated up from the convection. A very nearer layers of the surface, that is just the layer above the surface or on the ground level, the layer above, that is what the heat of the earth's surface will be impacting them. That is what we call it as conduction. Conduction. So usually the atmosphere heats up, right, because of convection, conduction, and there is a wind movement which will also deflect the temperatures across the atmosphere, which we call it as advection. Convection, conduction, advection, but it is the convection which is the reason for temperature increasing by altitude. This is the concept. So definitely that is the reason. And you also see that air being lesser denser in the upper atmosphere is having an impact on the temperatures. So answer would be 1 and 3. Shall we move forward to the next question now? Shall we move forward to the next question? Fair enough? Understood? Let's move it. Yes. Right. So next question. Right. What is this concept about? This question. Now this question. Which one of the following reflects back more sunlight as compared to the other three? What is this topic about? Gayatri? And the other one PRP? Can you answer it? Can you answer this? Right. So if you see this is the topic about what? Albedo. It's talking about albedo. So albedo means what? What is albedo? Amount of energy reflected back by the Earth atmosphere system in the original shortwave form. Now, if this is the surface, we have just now seen it. We have the sun. The sun's energy is received to the surface. This is what is insolation. A certain part of this energy is reflected back by the Earth and the atmosphere system put together, right? So the atmosphere particles which are there, the clouds and all, the surface ice which we have and all do reflect the incoming solar's energy. So such energy is more for what? Albedo is more for fresh snow. Fresh snow is the reason. So the answer is land covered with fresh snow. Sandy desert, paddy crop, prairie land, these are not the reasons. It is fresh snow. Then some additional concept for you. Why do you think that polar regions have less temperature? Polar regions, less temperature. There are two main factors. The first factor is latitude. The second factor is albedo. Because of the dominance of the fresh snow available in the polar regions, whatever the little energy they do get out of the slant rays, out of the latitude, that is also reflected. That is the reason why temperatures are always very less. Polar regions have less temperature is primarily because they receive lesser insolation when compared with the tropical, but whatever they receive, majority is reflected back. So mix of both is the reason why you do find lesser temperature. So albedo, land covered with fresh snow, whether it is the polar regions, whether it is the third pole of the world, which is the Himalayas, right? Where do you find the loftiest mountains? Himalayas. Where do you find the fresh snow? The glaciers. You do find around decent amount of albedo value, right? Then one more point. Albedo, why do you think that the glacial ice is melting in the Himalayas? When you talk about this concept, as I was telling you, in the Himalayas, glacial ice is melting because of what? Because of the black carbon, which changes the albedo. So that is the interrelated concept. Black carbon, which changes the albedo, right? Then move forward to the next one, right? And one more point which you remember about the fresh snow albedo. Snow, fresh snow, and the darkest one, you can see the dark soil. Dark soil, that is also one which actually reflects more. So be it the water in general, water bodies in general, they don't reflect more. A dark soil doesn't reflect. So if you see that, they absorb more. Water also absorbs. Dark soil also absorbs. Please remember these two. Right. So remember the topmost one, the fresh snow, which reflects more albedo, and the other ones which also reflect very, very less. In fact, fresh snow is almost 80 to 90% of the energy. What is the average of albedo of the earth? Average albedo of the earth is how much? 35 units out of 100. For fresh snow, it is 90 units. For the water and all, it is nearer to 15, 20, somewhere around there. Right. And then what is the probability of a topper getting this right, or rather a qualifier getting it right in the exam? Fairly good, because all these questions are fairly conceptual questions. Today there are very lesser conceptual questions. There will be lesser tricky question. When I say tricky question, here comes the tricky question. Try to answer this. This is a very tricky question. Right. Right. So if you see this question here, annual range of temperature is greater at the Atlantic Ocean and greater in the Pacific Ocean than in the Atlantic Ocean. Annual range of temperature is greater in the northern hemisphere than in the southern hemisphere. Which of the statements are correct? This is a very easy question, right? Now if you see, water is known for slow heating and slow cooling. Slow cooling. Land is known for rapid heating and rapid cooling. Water, the differential heating of land and water is different. The specific heat of land and water are different. You see that the specific heat is almost for whatever the energy which is needed for the land to be heated up, water needs 2.5 to 3 times the energy. So if you provided X units of energy to water, the land will be heating up very quickly, 1/3 of this itself, right? That is the thing. So 1 by, what do you say, 1/3 of the X of the water. So if X takes water, water takes X units, land takes 1/3 of that unit X. So with that, if you see that water will take more time to cool, land will take rapid time to cool. When you know this as the criteria, if you observe that and apply it here, Where do I find more amount of water? Northern hemisphere is dominated water or southern hemisphere is dominated by water? Southern hemisphere is dominated by water. So usually you will find the range of temperature would be lesser because there is more water here. Southern hemisphere will be having more lesser range of water distribution because land in the northern hemisphere there is more land, more water, more dominated by land. So what will happen? Temperature will increase more. So extremes would be higher. So because of that, range of temperature would be higher. Whereas in the southern hemisphere, range of temperature would be moderate because it is always the oceans. Because when you have oceans, slow heating and slow cooling, the difference in a day or difference in a year will not be varying. Whereas for a land, the difference would be higher in this way in terms of the annual range. Apply the same concept with respect to Pacific Ocean and Atlantic Ocean. Which is bigger? Pacific Ocean is bigger or Atlantic Ocean is bigger? We all know that Pacific Ocean is bigger. So when Pacific Ocean is bigger, the range will be bigger in the smaller one. So automatically the statement 1 is wrong. Statement 2 is right. Answer would be B, 2 only. So what is the concept here? When you talk about the equator, you can see this is the equator, right? Equator would be here. You can see the southern hemisphere dominated by water. Decent amount of land here. So when land is rapidly heating, rapidly cooling, the range and the daytime, the land is rapidly heated up, so it will be having more than the water. So generally the range would be higher for north, lesser than the south. Apply the same concept with respect to the Atlantic and then the Pacific. Pacific is a bigger one. Bigger one, range would be lesser. That's what the thing. It's almost a simple example here. Take 2 bowls of water. Take a big water bottle, take a smaller water bottle. How much water do you need for the bigger water temperature to be impacted by a new molecule of water? Right. For example, you take a glass of water. It is very, very warm. You wanted to make it cooler. How can you make it cool? You have to reduce the temperature by providing more water. Now, how can you, the dilution needed, that is what we are discussing here. So if you see from that perspective, you will get to know. So with this, the answer would be what? B, 2 only. Am I clear? Yes, Gayatri, PRP, have you understood this? Shall I move forward? Shall I move forward? Okay, that's good. Right. So next question now. Now the same application. Now you see, sometimes UPSC also asks previous year questions. The another advantage is repetition might happen. You would be lucky. Right. So the annual range of temperature in the interior of the continents is high. Just now we have discussed that annual range of the temperature in the interior of the continents is high as compared to the coastal areas. What are the reasons? What are the reasons for annual range of temperature being higher in the interior than in the coastal areas? Just now we have discussed thermal difference between land and water. So differential heating of land and water, specific heat. Yes. So 1 is definitely correct. There is no debate. When 1 is definitely correct, the only option you are eliminating is this. What about the remaining statements? If you see the remaining one, variation in altitude between continents and oceans. So variation in altitude between continents and ocean can be a reason for a difference of temperature, but that altitude is the reason, not the distance from the coastline. No, understand this question. The statement is right, but it is not the correct explanation for the assertion given. So this is wrong. Not correct explanation for given statement. You used to understand. There is a variation. Imagine you take the same example. Now you know you have seen that this is the continental, this is the continentality concept which you have. Siberia. The temperatures of Siberia in winter are quite extreme. Almost minus 30, minus 40 degrees is a norm. In summer, they'll have 10 to 20 degrees Celsius. The difference is almost 50 to 60 degrees between summer and winter. This is the annual range. When you talk about this annual range, it is because of being far away from the ocean. That is the reason which we call it as continentality concept. But if there is an altitude variation here, say a mountain or a plateau, that is not the additional factor with respect to the difference from the coastline, no. That altitude in itself is a factor. It has nothing to do in comparison with respect to the distance from the ocean. So the statement itself is right, but the statement is not the correct explanation for the given question. So second is eliminated. When you eliminate second, I am not bothered about third and fourth. Automatically you will get the correct answer as 1 only. Right. Then third statement, just for confirmation, let us have a confirmation bias now to confirm the same thing. Presence of strong winds in the interior. There is no necessity that winds are strong in the interior. It is the winds which are stronger usually when there is a contrast of more temperature. Nothing to do with this. Heavy rains are in the interior as compared to coast. Usually heavy rainfall happens in the coastal areas than in the interiors. So these statements are also wrong. So the range of temperature, there is only one factor. I think there is some trickiness involved. I would say not everyone would get this answer right in the exam, except a selected few, right? So if you are doing some confusion, now this is a process of learning. If this is a tricky one, at least you have understood how to apply the concept now. This is tricky. It is okay that if you get it wrong. If you say that third and fourth statement are right, then I have a problem. Some of you might say option B might be the right answer. You will be getting wrong answer for sure, you will not get marks, but definitely I can understand why you got it, why you have chosen option B, right? So in the exam, during the exam with that amount of, so much concentration which is needed during the exam, if you have done some kind of a mistake, acceptable here. So I would say that this is a medium, it is on a tricky level, it's a quite a tricky question. Though the question seems medium to difficult only, medium only, the trickiness is quite high. So the probability of many getting confusing between A and B is very, very high for this question. Okay. So if you get it wrong, don't evaluate, learn. For example, if you get this question wrong, that means you are not aware of the concept called albedo. If you get say example, this question, the first question wrong, that means you are not conceptually clear about the concepts, conceptually clear about geography. You are not aware of geographical things. So I have some problem with you in your preparation. But if you get the question like this one wrong, it is okay, acceptable. This is what the learnings for it. Right? Let us move to the next question now. Right? Now, if you see this next question, the amount of moisture in the atmosphere is related to latitude. Amount of moisture in the atmosphere is related to latitude. So there is moisture in the atmosphere. That moisture is a product of what? Evaporation. Is evaporation not related with latitude? Definitely. Yes, because latitude will determine the heat. Heat will determine the evaporation. Evaporation will determine the moisture. So statement is right. So one statement is right. D is eliminated. Then let us go to the next one. The capability to hold moisture in the form of water vapor is related to what? Temperature. Warm air, what will happen to warm air? It will expand. It will expand, it has more volume to hold, it has more capacity to hold moisture. Cold air, contracts. It has less capacity to hold moisture. So obviously warm air, more capacity, cold air, less capacity. And who is determining this? Definitely temperature. So that's what the question is also saying. Latitude, and there is an answer. So answer is both A and R individually true, and R is the correct explanation for A. There is no debate about this. So the correct answer is A. Very good. This is an easy question. I would say it is an easy question, conceptually question. Now you see this. So let us see the next question. Right, if you see it, a layer in the Earth's atmosphere is called ionosphere, facilitating radio communication. Why? The presence of ozone causes the reflection of radio waves to the Earth. This is stratosphere. So ozone means stratosphere. So first statement is wrong. Right. Then which of the statements given above are correct? Radio waves have a very long wavelength. One of the reason radio waves having long wavelength is the reason why ionosphere facilitates radio communication. Radiosphere has long wavelength. That is correct. The answer should be B only. Right. Okay. Right. You have a very long wavelength. So answer should be B. Ozone is in the stratosphere. We have seen that ionosphere is located between 80 kilometers to 400 kilometers. It is an electrically charged particle layer because of the presence of ions. These ions are formed with respect to the linkages with respect to the solar energy coming up, the solar waves coming up. And because of the electrical charge, radio waves transmit from the earth are reflected back to the earth by this layer. And by nature, radio waves are also having longer wavelengths. Yes, that's a very, very easy thing. Then the next question. Which one of the following layers of the atmosphere is responsible for the deflection of radio waves? For the deflection of radio waves is responsible for ionosphere. Now you compare the questions. This question, can you do any blunder? You cannot know, right? So radio wave atmosphere responsible for deflection of radio waves, it is ionosphere. Can you do any blunder here? No. Whereas for the trickiness involved with respect to the what explains the continentality concept, there is a trickiness involved. That is what I am trying to tell you. Very easy question. The correct sequence of different layers of the atmosphere from the surface of the earth. We all know this. If this is the surface, this is the troposphere, then we have the stratosphere, then you have the mesosphere, then you have the ionosphere or the thermosphere. Then we have the exosphere. So if you know this order, what is asking? They're asking from the surface of the earth. They're moving from the surface. So the answer should be first one, troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, ionosphere. This should be the option. Very, very easy. Can you do blunders in these kind of questions? Gayatri, PRP, can you do blunders in these kind of questions? You cannot. You are supposed to get around clarity about these kind of questions. You are supposed to get right. So this is the correct answer. So that is about the previous year questions of climatology for today. One more announcement for you. The remaining questions which are there in climatology, I will be also discussing in the textbook app masterclass as well. In the masterclass on Monday 2 p.m. The remaining climatology questions I will be doing from the textbook. For the link of the channel, which is very, very free, this masterclass in textbook is a free class. It's not a paid one. You can join in my Telegram channel and get into the Telegram channel, and through the Telegram channel you can get the link for the 2 p.m. masterclass session on Monday for the remaining climatology questions. That's it for today. Happy learnings all of you. Have a great weekend. Enjoy. Thank you. Happy learnings.